Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. This evening's episode is titled "The Species That Deserved More." You know, we think about what people deserve. We think about the karma of the individual, the cause and effect of the experience of the individual. But how many people on this rock in the middle of nowhere are wondering about what the species deserves? And how we would even go about wondering what it deserves, you know? On some level, if we judge what a species deserves from the past, it will always fall short. There will always be certain actions done in the past that will make you not deserve the future. If we think of purely the future, we will see innovation. But just because we can envision the future in the present moment doesn't mean that the future will be as we see it. But what a species deserves, I think, eventually comes down to its attitude in the present. The behavior of the human being to the overall event that was going on. You know, who knew? We're all attending the event of our life, of our lives. I found myself in one lecture speaking about a comparison between the Bodhisattva and the Buddha. I simply shared that the Buddha is looking for the personal heaven. From the personal hell, the person wants to move to the personal heaven. From the personal inefficiency, the person is seeking efficiency. Now, after the person has attained individual and a state of once you have found the heaven of the individual, it is then you notice the hell of the collective, which is the notion of why the Bodhisattva returned. That means it can be said that we will classify people, perhaps potentially in the future, through how in the world they are, how much they see the world. Your inner realms is where the personality arises, where the personhood animates. The mind is so sophisticated that it can hear a question halfway said and see a probability of what the question is and have a potential of being accurate. The mind can see an event take place before it takes place. And really what it seems to be happening is that our minds are living a faster life than our bodies. This is why we can contemplate probabilities before making a decision. The Buddha sought to free the self, but the Buddha in some sense did not realize that after you have freed the self, there is the realm. So the person honors their self, then they honor their realm. When I wonder what I deserve, The deserve part is the future, and the future is never as we envision it. There is a surprise component. But the way I mean the title, a species that deserved more, a species that deserved the better option when it could see it. That means the person had three options in front of them, or let's say two options, good and bad, or efficient and inefficient, and it is the efficient option that brings in more dimensions. That means the chaotic psychology and ordered psychology, their value is in how open the dimensions are. It's really what a person seeks. It's like back in the day in a sort of quest mindset, when the person needed help and was helped, the person then would help back. Once we rise from the suffering that related only to the self we could see, we will find the suffering related to the self that is the sky that all men stare at. If one assumes a collective nature to phenomena, the individual is a simulation. If the person sees an individual nature to phenomena, the collective is a simulation. And so it comes down to the choices of human beings, their day-to-day choices. In every moment of their life, what kind of context of humanity are you walking in? That means if there was an option for a better world, would you take it? And I feel there's something in poker psychology. They say that it's like in certain professional poker players know this. I'm not a professional poker player, but I know that certain professional poker players know this. That they have said that there are some people who come to the poker table and they haven't deserved their income or their money. They felt they didn't deserve it. And what happened is that the person, little did they know, but subconsciously, because they felt a phenomena did not belong to their moment, they were pushing it. So it's as if the person who unjustly made their money and comes to the casino when they're, let's say, intoxicated or whatever, they just subconsciously want to lose it all because they don't deserve it. That means not everybody can carry the same weight. There's certain moments on this planet where as much as you give freedom to everyone, those moments are not meant for everybody. There's certain systems going on in civilization, and there are systems that you can salute. Like that would be an advanced civilization. If there was an incredible effort towards efficiency, but an effort towards efficiency not restricted by the storylines we weave. The poet Rumi says, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrongdoing, there's a place. He says, I will meet you there in that place. And he says, when the soul sits on that grass, the world is too full to talk about. That means what we deserve is how far we can envision. That's what I've realized. That means, I don't want to say even that's how far we can envision. Sometimes it's a sort of natural effort. Sometimes I look at life and I'm like, okay, is the meaning of my life just from me? Am I the only person in the driver's seat, or is nature in the driver's seat? Could there be moments in life where we're just the movement of an event rather than a certain sentence in a book that could be filled with meaning, or meaning can be extracted from it? I wonder, I look at ink on a page and it translates to words, but when I look at every other phenomena, then I wondered, how is that translating into words? And here's the cool thing. If the object has form, the inner realms doesn't need to take the form. That means when a person sees a tree and a tree is just a tree, the inner realms don't necessarily need to take shape. So you can say to the mind, existence seems like imagination already thought. It doesn't need to think about it. There's a view that reality is the only thing here, and imagination is void, and there's a view where reality is void and imagination is the only thing here. But the solipsistic approach, where it's the person feels like they're the only mind in the room, that they feel they're the god of their moment, man will try to mask truth until he learns to look at it directly in the face. This life will have turbulence until you care for it. I feel all karmic turbulence is arising because of a lack of care. That's it. Even it's issues, slumbers, or the way the person stumbles, like there's moments where it's like the person didn't see what was coming. I think about what do I deserve, then I think about what does my species deserve. If I thought about what do I deserve just from the storyline, just from my own past, I can say that what I feel deserve would be limited. Here's the thing. In life, we have no choice. To be an individual, we got to compare things, but it depends on what you're comparing to what and what you're comparing first. If you compare the event in the moment to the past, you will feel bad. You compare it to the future, you'll feel like excited. You know what that means? That means if you look at imagine that we have a glass of water. And the person leaves this glass of water outside, comes back a few hours and sees the glass of water, there's no water in it. It was in the sun and the sun was thirsty. There is a view where this is comparing it to the past. You're looking at that glass and you're like, oh no, it was full. It's not full anymore. The water's gone. The joy and the meaning's gone. Or you realize, oh, it's empty. I can fill it up. So when you look at the future, it's like you want to fill up the cup. You're excited. You get excited to fill up the cup. If you look at it from the past, you lost something. So I think it's really our attitude. I feel that in order for us to stay alive and healthy as human beings, we have to embrace the notion of the creative force. That means if we didn't take care of the women of our planet, none of us would be here. You know what I mean? There are certain things that surpass systemization. They're just, I wrote a book about, I call it the pillars of civilization. Certain things that regardless of the archetypes in society and civilization, there are certain values that must be protected. One of them, for example, was nature, the natural. The natural is a value that's honorable to defend, you know? Nature is, I don't know, sometimes I feel that it knows what it's doing, and sometimes how can it? I'm not joking. There's been situations where I've seen like a creature run into like in front of the street, and I'm like, no way this creature just did that, like a squirrel or something. And then nothing happens. The squirrel has intelligence. I feel if we don't ask the question, what do we deserve, we'll never wonder what better ways we could exist. And that's why I'm bringing up the idea. Because every day happens once. And whether we know it or not, the ego is a testament to the eternal urge. To be something in a world of change is really quite a feat. I just find it a blessing that the world is not changing so fast that we can at least look at it in a certain way. Like I'm thinking, like right now I'm looking at this tree in front of me, and this tree in my yard, I'm looking at it now. I'm just thinking if I blinked and opened and the tree wasn't there. It's as if like if there was a speed of change there's definitely things changing faster than the light is demonstrating to us what's going on. We are human beings that have we are animals with name tags. We're animals with name tags. Now we're like, what do we do? Where does this go? Where it has gone, it seems, in society is a sort of different kind of idol worship, you know, where we are trying to worship ourselves as subjects. You know, I feel this is a sign, you know, the person's attention is, I personally feel it's like just like people, like 10 people can go into the same store, but the store owner wouldn't have a good experience with them, be polite or something, you know. People speak about discrimination in regards to, for example, color and like skin color and whatnot. I will say there's discrimination even regardless of the skin color. There is a class discrimination. There's so many ways that you can discriminate. Just it's like if the person thinks they have to be equal 24/7 everywhere they go, they are going to feel discriminated, you know. This is why I see reality as more like events. Like the day has chapters. Like the first chapter of the day, maybe it wasn't written so well, there were tears. You know, second chapter of the day, hey, some victory. You know, third chapter of the day, oh my God, did we reach the ending so quick? So reality is, it's something that once you trust it, in a strange way, your subconscious starts resisting. Because it's fair to say, any person is just in children. You know, I'll tell you a story. This is years ago. This is 2016, where I was in Iran. No, way before 2016, actually. I don't know when. But anyways, it was a point where recently, like, I had a new cousin enter the family. So this, like the Persian families, they have family gatherings, you know, like so it's embedded in the culture. So in these family gatherings, I would see my I would pretty much see the psychology of everyone. I would see the psychology of my grandfather, for example, how he held himself, you know, the psychology of my cousins. And just the point I want to make is that my smaller cousin, there was a situation in this gathering where there were people outside of the family. So this is a new kid, a very young kid, maybe he was 7 at the time or something, even less than 7, just very young. And so this cousin this cousin of mine, very young cousin of mine, I had seen him maybe a couple times, not that much, but he had seen my face in other family gatherings. So I'm suddenly walking into this gathering from outside. I come into the gathering and I see there's of course different crowds of people, but I see my little cousin, my aunt is nowhere, and my little cousin is freaking out around strangers, you know? And when I walk in the room, he sees me and he just runs and comes and hugs me. You know what I mean? And he's crying. And I just call my aunt. I'm like, what is this? You know? So it was a sort of reaction where my cousin was left in the unfamiliar and he ran to the familiar. So that's our conditioning. There's a reason there's discrimination, because we want to stick to a normal that's actually underneath the surface ever changing. Like it was normal to wear top hats, like, I don't know, a couple 100 years ago. Now is anybody wearing top hats in the street? Do we get offended if someone doesn't wear a hat in civilization? You know? Because back in the day, wearing a hat meant it was like a way it separated you from being an animal. seriously, as a sort of class distinction, not even in a class sense. It was separating man from his environment. Guys, I just looked at the chat section and oh my god, so many people are writing. Welcome everyone. All right, guys, if there's any questions, just put. Wait, is this a question? Okay, so Jason, and you're asking something about the poker thing. I'm just saying it's just the person doesn't deserve their money, and they come there, and they're in some sense like playing, and because they don't deserve it, some part of their subconscious or their inner child doesn't want it. You know, so the person loses on purpose. That's what I meant. So yeah, guys, just put MW if you have a question, and I'll scan it out. You know. This world of ours, it is a performance. And it's a performance where our eyes have been designed to engage it. There's a scene in Gladiator, the movie. I recommend everybody to watch that film. That was the film that inspired me to go towards pursue a film career, really. But I'll tell you that in that movie, there's a scene where Maximus is shackled in some sort of prison underneath the Colosseum before he's about to go fight the weak emperor. And a general like the right-hand man, or like a friend of Maximus, who was the general of the emperor, like the servant of the emperor in the movie at the end. It's like he comes to Maximus before he goes out, and it's like the ending of the movie, and he says, Maximus, the army is here, we can get you out, or something. He says something in those lines, and Maximus looks at him and smiles, and he says something in the lines like, nature never puts someone through an experience that it has not also at the same time prepared them for. And there was such an incredible thing about that attitude, where it's as if the inner realms are a stage of grander significance. You know, that means that it's like the concept, even it's sometimes it's unique. When I look at it, I'm like, really? Do we have a concept called God in this world? I'm like, what is, like, sometimes I don't know, I get very silly panic attacks, but they're micro panic attacks. They're just overwhelmment of a potential, you know? What you deserve is what you feel requires you. I can honestly say that there's some moments in life it's not conceptual. It's just like you look at a moment, and even though the rational probabilities your mind fathoms and even sees the irrational probabilities, Your mind just sees the various ways move, but some moments, they just require life. They just require life to be added to the moment, and it just progresses. You know, it's just like that moment where there was a car crash in a developing country, you know, where the police couldn't get there on time, and so the people ran. The people ran, and they were pushing the car, and bystanders saw this, and they're like, "Yo, these guys need more help." And it was like a group that helped move instantly a car off a person. That means if you want to move a car off a person as one person, it's like you probably need a robot suit or something. But like, we realize the collective can have the strength of the robot suit. And so it's all about how we're administering the inner realms and how much the inner realms have cared for the outer realms while they're here to see it. You know, it's like that moment where, like for a lot of people who I feel are parents in this world, you realize it's as if it's like everything one needs in this life is right there in front of them. And we should look at the concept of thinking no longer as thinking, because the concept of thinking breaks down. And let me tell you why. Because people are treating themselves as a thought, but then they're treating the concept of thinking as a thought too. So a thought is thinking of a thought. That's how people think. And it's such a misinterpretation of René Descartes' "I think, therefore I am." People didn't realize what he meant. They thought René Descartes was saying, "I'm a thought." No, he wasn't. He was saying that there is an isolated thinking subject, that when this person, René Descartes, came to look at truth, this was his tactic, his strategy, where he doubted. He doubted everything and realized he can't doubt the one doubting. And so the mind-body dualism was recognized. He planted the flag of the human species upon that idea. You know, we should build a civilization and get our tips on how to build a civilization from births. Why? Because the bird can sit on a branch, look at something from a certain fixed position, and it can fly into the sky and completely reconsider things. And so what seems to be happening in life is that people are not using their ego vision. They're not taking moments in life to just slow down and just wonder about what's happening. Really, sometimes it is true, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but if you wanted to know how the wheel was invented, then you would reinvent it. You know, that means so many things in this life. If the person doesn't have a thought on it and just does the activity, it will astonish you how many insights arise. Because really, it's weird. I feel people are jumping from thought to thought. Only to wonder the jumper doesn't have an attribute. What this species deserves is its most advanced possibility. And how do we bring this about? It means we have to add dimensions to how we're considering the world is occurring. And not to fix the dimensions into a language that is set in stone. You know, sometimes I think about the legend of King Arthur. And I'm thinking that moment when the sword came out of the stone, people were like, "Wow, he did it!" And King Arthur was probably, he was like playing it out cool, but in his mind he's like, "No way!" It's like, "No way, this just happened." You know, imagine like the person right before him, before like King Arthur, had made the thing so loose that King Arthur just had to give it a little push, and then he took out the sword. You know. What it really is that the person understood the value of the moment. That's really as far as Excalibur can go. You have found the important. That means it's like, when I say you find the important, when I say there's this ego vision that in any moment the person can just be still and silent in like a movie theater, like in a cinema, watch their life. When you watch your life, you notice something interesting. Emotions arise. Emotions are a response to the inner realm. And sometimes it's the complexity of a bunch of inner realms infusing. That means there was a time where I was just you know, just like in a very present state of mind. Suddenly a memory came from my childhood where I had failed. And you know what it was? It was a memory I could not change. It was an event that had just happened in a certain way. And I remember thinking back at that event and realizing in how many ways I could have changed it. And the emotions came from the moment I could see I could have lived different. Because we're all seeing a part of the moment. This story is attributed to Buddha, but it's found in many cultures. Pretty much they bring a bunch of people, they blindfold them, and they tell them to touch an elephant, right? And different parts of the elephant. Somebody touches the elephant's tail, it's like, what is this rope? Somebody touches the elephant's stomach, it's like, what is this wall? Somebody touches, I don't know, the elephant's foot, and it's like, what is this column? You know? I'm just painting I'm just trying to say that they all touched the elephant, but they couldn't see the whole elephant. And that's the thing about individual life. That's the value of collectivity. You know, it's not even per se, oh, we want to build a happy utopia where nothing bad ever happens. No, it's just to see what happens when information, when 8 billion angles on how the planet can advance, how would their integration arise? Because let me tell you, there's this view of boldness in life, which for a long time I didn't understand. I only understood boldness and really what the concept of independence means when I noticed my mortality. When I noticed that an event is taking place that is beyond my control, but parts of this event are in my control, and only in the conscious waking state. In the dream state, sometimes I can move in my dreams. In deep sleep state, there's no problem. You know, no self, no problem. But if you have a self, endless suffering through eons of reincarnation. You know, it was as if like the Lotus Sutra, the picture it paints, of course I'm going to animate it in a modern way, but it's pretty much the Buddha being like, no way, we were all enlightened from the beginning. No way. The realm is just changing. That means you can say that we are on the shoulders of giants, and yet we think our free will is the one that can give this giant its true nature. It's really, There is a part of life that is strange and divine, and it just seems to be a movement beyond linear comprehension. And then there's a part of life where it's history's artwork. I mean, history's been building this artwork for a long time, you know. That means I criticize the history books playfully, but if an alien was on this planet and the alien was criticizing our history book, I'd be like, hey, hey. It's like, so what, you're extraterrestrial? Respect our history books, you know what I mean? Like, it would be. An advanced civilization means the individual has a sophisticated ability to utilize its collective vision and individual vision. Right now, it's not easy for us to fathom a collective being. You know, one of the great questions that I've been fathoming this year is, what does freedom mean for a collective being? And I think about it, and a collective being has no story of freedom. It's like, yeah, the person suffers in the universe, but does the universe suffer? Does the universe care that we're dying over here? It seems like the universe is just carrying on its duty, its service as just an existential display. And in any system where there is movement before you're born, there's mysteries that will never be seen. That's a part of life. Even though I have the DNA of my ancestry, yet I am at the same time the new person, you know? Scholars say there's a world that was here before you were born, and it's going to be here after you transition. And there are some and there's a world where it began from the moment you were born to the moment you actually transition. So there is a sort of existence doesn't wear a watch. That means if we're like, okay, how long is existence existing? Even though we're thinking of an entropic heat death to the universe, but I'm saying, like, at the same time, it seems to be existing. That means even though our universe stops existing, who knows if there's other universes that are just chilling, you know? So it's as if, like, the same thing. Here's the hilarious thing. There was this notion that, of course, through the great efforts of Galileo and Copernicus, humanity realized, all right, we are like, the Earth, it's like everything's not spinning around the Earth. That the sun, we are spinning around the sun. So it was a way of seeing ourselves no longer as the center of the world. But here's the hilarious thing. We thought that by not seeing ourselves as the center of the world, we could avoid not seeing ourselves as the center of the world. The fire is starting in the present moment, so the room has light. That means the present moment is like this piece that if you pull it out, the past and the future break. They are no longer relevant. So presence is a realm. It's that true reality. Now, I've kind of held back on speaking about it, but there's a system I've designed which, strangely, so far in everything I've seen, it has withstood. I feel like it's such a it's a system with eternal potency, you know. Pretty much, I thought of, like, okay, let's say there was an extraterrestrial that landed on Earth, imagine, and the extraterrestrial landed on Earth. Imagine like a meteor was about to hit Earth, you know. or something. Some tragic event was happening on Earth, and we were there was about to be some sort of massive extinction event. And imagine like a minute, like 5 minutes before the extinction event, you know, this alien lands on Earth to make contact, and we're like, now, motherfucker. And this alien comes down. He's like, human beings, I know you're gonna go extinct in 5 minutes, but like, what was humanity about? What did you guys? How far did you guys see? And so imagine you have 5 minutes before extinction to share, like, what was all of human knowledge and all the dimensions we fathom. I thought about in that 5 minutes sharing this idea where I call it the model, the ring of the absent heaven. I would say 0, 1, 2, infinity. And then I would say the unknown was our greatest teacher. And that's it. The extraterrestrial would understand everything that human knowledge saw. That we have considered in all our systems. I mean, think about what knowledge is. Is knowledge there alone? No, there's the unknown. So 0 means space. So this extraterrestrial, imagine like extinction event happens, we're all gone. Now this extraterrestrial is like, what did that mean? What did that guy on Earth before extinctions mean by 0, 1 to infinity? And the unknown is our greatest teacher. The extraterrestrial will realize we as a species acknowledge space, emptiness. Then we acknowledge the singular, stuff in space. And this is really the point about this is the mystical dimension, 0, 1. It's a sort of psychological binary of identity. So we have the 0 dimension, the 1 dimension, the extraterrestrial will be like, okay, so what does that mean? That means these beings comprehended the space, the voids, human beings. We comprehended singular phenomena in the space. We comprehended the singular, saw a reflection of itself, and two emerged, the duality emerged. So from a complete ability to handle the singular, we found an ability to handle the dualistic. The dualistic is language. The alien would realize that. Then the extraterrestrial would think, why did that person say infinity? So I said 0, 1, 2, the number 2, and then the infinity symbol. The infinity symbol is a suggestion of the hope of our species towards the inconceivable infinity. That means we are going so towards an advancement that it's like even light is gonna be like, yo, you guys are going faster than me. What is this? There is a moment in life where I feel whoever you are, whatever you have been, whatever weight you have carried, whatever story you have worn, there will come a moment where you will see something so beyond that you will feel an emptiness, but it is not, and it is an emptiness where on another side of the coin there is the infinite, the completion of the ring of the absent heaven. That extraterrestrial would be like human beings experienced the void. They experienced existence. They experienced the singularity of existence. They experienced the duality of experience. And they experienced the consciousness of infinity. And then they return to the void. So that means if you add a 0 at the end, that's the story of civilizations. We rise, we in design to roar at the infinite and then watch the abyss pull the curtain. Yet the mystery continues, because these dimensions, the secret of the hidden heart of the hearts, that you are the watcher of the realm. And eyes that have no shape, What can die? The language will break before matter could ever break. The mind is free. The mind is the definer of freedom. You know, there's some, everybody should Google Martin Luther King, I Had a Dream speech. Like, that's definitely has incredible historic value to watch that, because in it Martin Luther King says what is his dream? That his children can live in a world where they're not judged by their color of their skin, but they're judged by the nature of their character, how far their efforts advance the species. Because you see, either we say it's nothing and we stare at the wall, or we say it's something and we break the wall. But breaking the wall doesn't mean physical rebellion. That means what is going on in the world right now is just the need to ascend to a higher platform of dialogue. It's the era of the advanced communicators. That means human beings can't just watch life happen only. They have to find a way where every day there is a participation. There's a sort of, you know, we participate. It's like participation fixes a nation that is broken in parts, you know. There's something about this life that you have to treat it like it's a mind that not that you can learn from. It's just an event. Those who fear mystery, knowledge is their guide. Those who don't fear mystery, the unknown is their greatest exploration. There's no longer teachers. After the teacher-student archetype, then it becomes explorer. Nobody knows anything. You've reached the peak. You know what I mean? That means at some point there is like, what is teaching? It's just vision trickling down the eons, you know. So guys, Franny in the chat section asked an interesting question. Bruh, why are people why are people mean to things they don't understand? They are not mean. They are weak. Nobody is ever mean. They didn't know a better way they could move. That means you have to forgive until you notice greatness. Then you ride into battle, you know. Because honor was the next thing. I am telling you, civilization has lost its honor. After our identities being based on our just pure genetics and just even the cultural display and whatnot and the expression of the person, there is a level of honor which separates. It's like the honor of the event's advancement. Do you know? That means for me, I haven't had a chance to start a company, but if I do, I'm gonna have a sort of like knighting ceremony of honor, you know, with the employees. You know? Why? Because this point of honor means that as you strive for the more, there is a value that is held. Dishonor means the effort wasn't seen. That's what dishonor really means. Because, you know, lions roar. Why not man? What if every thought is the mind's attempt to break the past into the future? You know, my inner realms, once they opened up to me, it became very fascinating to just go on walks. I would go on walks and my inner realms would move geometrically. What does that mean? That means imagine you're a person who has visualized so much that you don't have to think about visualization. The same way you write a sentence, imagine you've written a sentence so much that you can, it's like you don't have to think about the pen in your between your fingers. You know, you don't have to think about it becomes second nature. So when the intellect becomes second nature, the piloting, it is non-dual, but I can't say only non-dual because that becomes escapism. In this life we have to learn to handle how we're individuals, or we would want to get away from civilization, you know. The biggest issue is that sometimes there wants to be expression, but there is no observance. That's how you learn as a fool in life. When you don't observe and you just go in da 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 da, you know, and it's just like after some point, it's like you stumble heavy. Heavy stumbles arise. But then there is that which is the observer, the person who is walking, and as they are walking, they're watching. Like that is the cool thing about walking. It's like your face is a camera and you're moving it around, you know? Who knew my whole life my head's been panning left, panning right. The honor is the point of it was the advancement of skill. You need honor to create a civilization of skill. Because the individual doesn't mean we need nice people. We don't need just nice people on this planet. We need efficiency. Efficiency means it's workable. It's enough. It's good enough. If it can work, attempt it. Because the nature of thought is that the energy of the vision arises. Like think about from the beginning of this talk in how many ways my attention as the speaker is moved. You know, now in life, the attention can also move in so many ways, but there's certain moments of it where if you keep the camera static, you suddenly wonder who's looking through it, and then it's the attributeless. It's the attributeless. What can I say? It's like explaining someone what silence is by shouting. You know. It's like silence is the absence of shouting. You know, like. And you see, it's like the multidimensionality of life. Forgiveness is simply multidimensional. For me, the future feels like my older sibling. My past feels like my younger sibling. And the present, I mean, in present, in real life, I'm a twin. So I have a sibling. But I'm saying like the future has an importance that the past doesn't understand. And the past has a voice that the future doesn't understand. You know? So that means that's the diplomacy of the philosopher. That means if you are a person, this is Mr. Within's definition of an advanced communicator. An advanced communicator is a conscious being that has realized that their most advanced communication is being simultaneously the most advanced communication of the universal sector in their experience. So I'm pretty much saying the advanced communicator communicates as is being the advancement of communication in the universal sector. You know, we have to start eventually at some point galactifying the narratives of civilization 1.0 to get it closer towards 2.0. What does that mean? That means we have to stop thinking we're working for names. We are working for We are working for a future that will name itself, really. It's just the sharing of efficiency. That means the person's like, wait a minute, you telling me chaos could be like fire? Chaos could spread like fire, so why not order? You know, why not? Let me tell you guys, there's something to life that surpasses any story, in my view. Any story. It's not language significant. Like, for example, a parent who has a child, they'll suddenly realize, oh my God, this child is a living being. This child is a living event. Do you know? Its eyes are recording the day. Its eyes are receiving personality and updates from its environment. Do you know? So then it's as if when that's really being in the present moment. When you suddenly see like your child is in front of you, you know? And that's the great thing. This is why I know that the people's minds are always changing, and they're changing in an intelligent way. That means I honestly just hope that in the future, if there's alien contact, the whoever's going there to make alien contact doesn't show off. It's like the person's showing off like his Porsche to an alien in a universal, like, you know, alien contact moment. The alien's like, "Are you serious, bro? I traveled light years here, so you show me your Porsche?" The task of the personal inner realms is to be expressed. Your inner realm, your personal life, is just for you to get to a point where you're comfortable enough. When you're comfortable enough with your inner realms and your individual life, and you have a certain range of stability, then the great work of your mind begins. The great work of your mind begins in noticing significance. This word is huge. This word is huge because significance requires an internal authorization, an allowance for existence to happen in new ways. But how can it when the person has believed at a young age, let us say in certain countries, where the child is just a little kid and it loves its environment, but the environment has a certain set of ideologies. So it comes into a paradox where it has to either unlove its environment, or it has to see the idea as rational to itself. You see, not everybody thinks by looking at stuff. Sometimes we've already looked at stuff and thoughts emerge, you know? The greatest thing that I noticed in Vedic thought was they said you can control the mind, but they didn't say as what or how, because it couldn't be said. But they said you can control it. They said that the mind was a great servant but a lousy master. And I thought, oh my God, what if the mind is honestly a tool waiting for us to activate it? Maybe we right now are such a primitive species, we don't know how to activate our minds. And 1,000 years from now, people are going to look at us, look at these fools. They didn't realize they were advanced antennas, you know? So that's the thing. I feel like it's fascinating because when it's like, you know, what's his name? When Edison made the light bulb, it's like before the invention was actually made, he realized he could have always made it. You see, that's the cool thing about life. The information is everywhere. It just there has to be, as Albert Einstein says, a bridging of two different worlds to evoke genius. That means genius doesn't come from answers. Genius comes from the type of question you ask. And I will tell you, every human being, every DNA is here to look at a question and wonder. Wonder is the point of honor. It's the point of raising from the dirt intelligence that will move towards the stars. For what does our species deserve? I'll read for you something. I remember I wrote it in 2015. I've never shared this. I think it was Commands of a Celestial General. It was like a title like that. Let me see if I can find it. In the thing, It's literally just like, literally, it's as if like a drill sergeant is speaking in the whole thing, you know? 2000, every year of my life, its significant was the rhythm that I felt I was moving towards. You know, the heart beats, but the mind flies. There we go. Commands of a celestial general. The celestial command. These are entries. They're not poems I'm reading for you. They're just short entries. So, the celestial command from the unpublished book Commands of a Celestial Commander. Have you heard the celestial command? It can only be heard from within as within. What gives the warrior an allowance to move forward? Rise beyond the duality of ignorance that is too busy fighting itself to be one. The truth of this world is hidden and unhidden as you are. Be the breath in all lungs, and you shall see. Your hands will never be able to hurt another. For divine love is a cosmic command for eternity to teach its temporariness. The kindness of the new. We present in reality's truth. We are present in reality's truth that is more than a reflected face facing the world. Be the absolute. Be the absolute. For the strike to heaven was made of earth. Do not keep totality separate. Love the world in a way where you have become the way. The glory of what comes next is waiting for the mindfulness of your serene smile. Hear the celestial command, as you are. Hear the celestial command, as you are. That means everything you require in this life is being. Yet it is your choice that as an advanced communicator in the era of advanced communication, as we are waking up from the chaos of language worship, may the emergence of the multidimensional being be successful. May the transition of the conscious self through language towards the conscious world be successful. May there be a success that is not full of itself, yet it has acknowledged the emptiness and it's still going forth. In one of my science fiction books, there was a sentence where it said, no man can avoid the unavoidable void, but humanity's glow will never perish. Humanity's glow will never perish. That means that our task as creatures is to live in such a way where the universe can't forget us. You know, like I remember many times when I was in high school, all on the tables and the bathroom and everywhere, just on the walls everywhere, everybody had written, I was here, or somebody was here, you know? We were here. So I'm thinking pretty much that's what we're trying to do. To create some sort of progression, a chain of events that surpasses the expectation of the laws of nature and becomes the moment where, whether there is an archetypal intelligence, whether this world is a simulation, whether there is an inner realm or an outer realm, the endless sky has already given its sermon. We are tears of the gods. We are divine, yet we have fallen. The emergence of the new human ethos, the new story that will make everybody, for the first time, care what it would be like if the species takes a giant step. Honestly, that's what civilization is. The forces of nature are killing this giant, and we have to defend it. That's the honor that's missing. I'm going to read another entry. The entry is The New Dawn. What makes tragedy remember her heartbreak? Every moment we are a new moment. There are few men who can testify to the absoluteness of causality as consciousness beyond distinct boundaries. However, the world turns as it does. Man constantly gets a new view on the center of, sorry, not man, main. I think there's a word missing here. However, the world will turn, and as it does, I don't know, let's say the person constantly gets new views on the center of his or her origin of awareness. We must now, as a collective, become the dawn that integrates all constellations in one happening. When the time for greatness has come, there is no other time. From the beginning to the end, you were able to be alive. Move beyond time. That is, I guess, the next great evolutionary step. What do we do with the watches that we were looking at on a sphere in a vacuum? You know, it's multidimensional systems will arise, and accompanying them there will be multidimensional beings born. What I mean by multidimensional is just an ability to see that you're not limited to one sort of archetypal jurisdiction or structure. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I'm gonna put a 5-minute Q&A in the chat section, and then after 5 minutes I'll head to the Discord. Come on, keyboard, work for mankind. Guys, I'm gonna have a better computer soon. It's game changing. Wonder is the only emotion that immortality can not successfully, but immortality can be endured. Really, our species will just get bored and keep updating, get bored and keep updating. It will eventually get bored of being an individual, update into a collective being. It would get bored from being collective being for such a long time. It's going to update into individual being, or it's going to just completely transform. You know, that means it's like the person draws an artwork, but the person doesn't want to draw an artwork their whole life, you know what I mean? So what does that mean? That means the inspiration arises. The heart is, if your heart speaks before your mind, you have acknowledged space before movement. You know, guys, before I end off, I'm gonna share one last story. There was this philosophy teacher, as a question on this exam, as a bonus question, he wrote the question, why question mark. And at the end of the exam, the students came, and the teacher, they all, like, what do you call it? They all didn't get the point. Nobody got the bonus point except one. And one of them went to the teacher. I'm not going to say one, because the kids would probably go ask that guy, what was your answer? But I'll tell you like this. Pretty much what happens is so many different answers are written to the question why, WHY, a question where I think the scientific mind to some degree approaches with distaste, you know? Anyways, the kids ask what's the answer, and some of them write, oh, because of creation, because of a creator, because of the sort of Big Bang, because of this, because of that, da 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 da. But only one person got it right in the classroom, and the teacher's like, get up, kid, it's your moment, and the kid gets up and he says his answer, and his answer was, why not? That's the lion's roar in this modern times. Why not is a roar. Do you believe it? It's a roar in these modern times. That means when we think about why should we spend our lives living as building an advanced civilization, the greatest response, like a lightning strike, why not build an advanced civilization? What greater game is there to play on a rock in the middle of nowhere? So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I'll be on the Discord server if anybody wants to join the philosophical discussion. Blessings.